And like with a weekend creator, it's a bit possible to like transition from like a job to creatorpreneur. And the creatorpreneur is my own philosophy. So the creatorpreneur is my own philosophy, which I created maybe like a year ago or something. In short, it is kind of like the embodiment of the yin and the yang. And the entrepreneur is like, it's the left brain. So like this is the left brain. And the creator is the right brain. It's the yin and the yang. So the yin is the feminine in I think it's Chinese Taoism or something. And the feminine is the creator. It's like purposeful, meaningful, nature exploration. And then the entrepreneur is more like the logical, the analytical person, the person who maybe makes the money and everything. But maybe have a bit of like problems. If they only stay in an entrepreneur, they might have the problem in the future to get maybe a bit depressed or unhappy. So they kind of need to embody both. So kind of like in my philosophy, it's like you want to embody the creator, which is the feminine, the yin, and the entrepreneur is the masculine, the more analytical person. And if you only do once, it shifts in a bad spectrum. Means if you only focus on creating content, art, everything, you mostly stay broke and can't pay your bills. If you only be an entrepreneur, you kind of get more a bit depressed, unhappy, because you have no meaning, you have no creation in your life. You know, you don't kind of like give to other people because you just want to earn more money. And then turning this with the chaos to clarity together, which is my mental organization system, which actually helped me with ADHD, where I transitioned from entrepreneur to creator and then to a creatorpreneur, and how I organize my ADHD mind. And a lot of things changed just because of the system. So like this is kind of like the biggest change in my entire life was just developing the system for my mind, and it really helped me a lot with ADHD. And that's why I want to like teach other people, because I had this huge aha moment, like, oh my God, like why did I create a system when I was young? Sure, it's not possible if you're young. It's, you know, you need this experience and the knowledge to build this thing. But yeah, that's what I want to teach other people, and already did in a few cohorts before. And yeah, so the main purpose right now is turn inner chaos into meaningful creation, because it brings you a lot of purpose into life when you start something like art, creation. I mean, I have been a photographer for 10 years or something. So I have a camera which records. So I've been a photographer for 10 years. I'm doing videography as well. But then I also wanted to combine like more the entrepreneurship part. So both together. And this is kind of like the missing puzzle piece, which I talk about in the next couple of past newsletters and the next ones, that we kind of want to combine both of these brain hemispheres together to have like the unity. Okay. And what I discovered in terms of like work and job and everything is a job is good. It's nothing bad, right? But because it is so safe, it can turn into a problem, because you get into this comfortable crisis, because, you know, okay, every month I get my paycheck, every month I get money, but kind of like you lose a bit of like this exploration and this challenge. So you kind of want to have your work, and then on the weekend maybe start your business or something. And then the moment your business can change the trade-off of your job and pay your bills, that's the moment you transition out of a job. Because I feel like, especially for ADHD, we can't really have this full way of autonomy without having a job, actually. Without having a business, right? With ADHD, you kind of need this autonomy to really have the perfect routine for your mind. And yeah, it's kind of like a job is a slow death. It might feel safe in the beginning, but that's also the problem. And yeah, let's go continue. And one of the ideas I came up with maybe a few months ago as well is to turn your wounds into content. So what I've experienced in my past was I was an entrepreneur, and I was kind of like struggling with happiness. My work was so boring. I had this company in my past, a startup in Germany, when I was 21. And then I made a lot of money with this business, but my life felt meaningless. Then I transitioned into a creator, and somehow my life was more meaningful and purposeful. I had a lot of flow in my life. It was a lot of fun, but somehow I didn't make any money. Then I was like, okay, I need to change something as well. And then I need to adopt again the entrepreneur and the creator together. And it's like, hey, I need to do both. It's kind of more of a balance. I would still tangle in it like, hey, you should become more creator, like 70 to 80%, because it gives you more meaning and happiness in your life. And most people are, in most cases anyways, too analytical and left brain focused. And then I thought about like, okay, when you become a creator, it's kind of like you're helping a lot of people. Like you post content, and mostly to become a bit bigger, you need to post content for free in the beginning, right? And because you post a lot of free content, people come back to you. It's like, oh my God, Jeff, that helped me so much. Like, oh, your ADHD routines, habits or something helped me a lot, the systems, etc. And they're really happy about it. And it's like, oh, wow, it feels so purposeful because I can help other people with this pursuit. And then I thought about like, okay, there's this philosophy about Atlas who's holding the world, like kind of like the pain of the entire world, right? And then there's kintsugi, which are scars, which is pain. And then I was like, okay, I just combine it together, and then turning your scars, which is the pain in the past, from your stories, from your failures in your life, maybe from your difficulties. Like for example, the passing of my dad, then I was stuck in Germany for like 2 years. I didn't make any money or something, and I had no idea what I wanted to continue on, right? And then I found purpose and everything became better. And then I kind of like put gold as in kintsugi above these scars, turn it into content, into a storyline, and started like a personal brand, right? This is kind of like where I'm going right now. And like now I have like around 3,800 newsletter subscribers, and now I'm trying to like, scale this up, reach more people, and hopefully help more people, especially trying to tackle with the two brain sides. Because in short, ADHD is right brain dominant, in my opinion. It's a philosophy and theory I have. And the left brain is more analytical. It's the entrepreneur, right? As I said before. The creator is actually the ADHD person, and the entrepreneur is the logical person. So neurotypical, neurodivergent, or ADHD. And the goal, what we want to achieve, is getting more in alignment, more in the unity of both different brain hemispheres. And what I see as a problem in the world right now is we are kind of like in a really, really strong left brain dominant world. That's why a lot of people are unhappy, a lot of people are depressed, because they're stuck in the ego, left brain structured part, which is in control. This is the control part. And the other part, the right brain, is where you kind of let go, because to receive creativity, you need to surrender and you need to let go of the ego so you can enter a flow state. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. That's why a lot of jobs are not meaningful and are boring, because you never really let go. The job is never interesting enough or stimulating enough that you can fall into a flow state, because you're either anxious or bored in most jobs. Anxious is like, oh, you have too much work, and boredom is, it is so boring and I hate my job because nothing happens, right? So yeah, this is kind of the philosophy. And yeah, the idea is we want to have a bit more balance in terms of life, which is really, really beneficial for you, because the moment you have like more active recovery, you actually work better. So everyone is telling you, oh, you need to work 8 to 12 hours, right? I thought about the same. Like when I had to start, I was working 14 hours, right? I didn't work 14 hours. I was working probably 2 or 3 hours productively. The rest was like talking with people. Sure, it's good to talk with your partners, with your team, but it doesn't really make you productive, right? And then we also want to have income. Otherwise, I had the same situation. Like if you didn't make any money, I was stuck at home. I was living at my mom's place. And I had good ideas, but I didn't make any money, so I couldn't escape my life. And then I was stuck in my mind, right? And then third is like more autonomy. As I said before, when we have autonomy, especially if we're able to structure our day however we want it, it really helps with ADHD. That's why I was only able to do all of the things, because I was an entrepreneur in the beginning. And then I built this autonomy already. And then I realized, oh my God, because I'm an entrepreneur already, it's easier for me to manage my ADHD symptoms. And then that's why, in my opinion, I mean, it's, you know, a lot of people, a lot of like psychologists hate me for that on social media, but it's only the psychologists who don't understand it, because I talk with other psychologists who have the same opinion as me, is that pills, ADHD pills, they're just helping you to do the thing you actually don't want to do. It's the same with a job. That's why they say, okay, go to school, go to university, get a job, and then take the pills, because it makes you kind of like obedient towards the work. But then with ADHD, you don't want this obedience actually. You want to have this freedom, this lifestyle. You want to go outside, you want to explore. You actually want to explore nature, and you want to explore your mind. And that's why I feel like the entire economy wants to give you the pills, so you can do the boring work everyone hates and makes them depressed. Because if the economy, if the people in the world are more depressed, the economy goes up because more people purchase. It's the same during COVID. Everyone was stuck at home, everyone was bored, everyone was maybe unhappy, and if you see the statistics, everything went up. Sales went up, the e-commerce went up, and even the stock market went up, because people had nothing to do, so they just purchased. They were bored, they were purchasing, they were depressed, they tried to make them feel better. So the more people are depressed in some way or unhappy, the more they look into like physical possessions. But the more happy you are, the less you need. That's really like a strong embodiment. And I mean, jobs are really nothing bad. In some part of my life, I was like, I wish I would have a job which I enjoy in some way or another, because it reduces stress levels. Because the moment is like, if you have no money at all to pay your bills, you're getting into this fight or flight, which I was kind of like for 2 years in my life. And it wasn't really good. Like, you can still work, right? But the decisions, the subconscious decisions you make are not that good. And jobs are good for two things. It's good for making money and creating stability. And you need to kind of like find a business part or something on the side that later will change that. And once you found a way to make money outside a job, get out as soon as you can, because a business is nothing easy, right? It takes at least 6 to 12 months, I would say. Sure, there's like boring stuff you can do to make quick money, but quick money is never something positive. That was the same what I did with my startup. It was quick money, but it doesn't make you happy and purposeful. You need this time to think and reflect, to really know what you actually want. Like, it took me, I think, 8 months until I discovered kind of like purpose after my dad passed away. And only then I was working 6 to 12 months, and then I made money, actually. So it was kind of like a 2-year period for struggling for like 8 months, just playing video games because I had no purpose. Then I was working and trying to find this new purpose. I needed to create it, right? Because I had no skills in terms of content creation. I know I was a photographer, but I had no writing skills. I couldn't really articulate myself, what I wanted to have. I had no brand identity or something. So this needed to be created over a longer period of time. And honestly, everyone who tells you, oh, you can become an entrepreneur in like a month, is kind of like talking bullshit and want to sell you a course. That's a problem. So I started with my small first business in New Zealand when I was 19 as a photographer. So I was working for a magazine as a photographer, I was doing the graphic design, etc. Then on the side, I started an Airbnb business doing photography trips in some way. I made kind of like a good money when I was 19. So I was able to like go around the place in New Zealand and then make photos for other people and make money of it. It was not really a lot of hours. Then COVID started. I need to go back to Germany, started university, dropped out of university because I was starting a business, the company. Then I built a team of 10 people. I was 21. And then at 23, 24, I went out of the business. And then my dad passed away, and then I fall into this rock bottom and slop. And then I stayed there for like 1 or 2 years. And then I finally made it out and everything. And yeah, I was 27. I'm right now just building this business. And yeah, it's the best thing I've ever encountered so far. So it's the thing that brings me the most purpose. And yeah, so I had, in total, I would say I would have 4 businesses, more or less. It's kind of like an Airbnb experience business, which is integrated with photography. Then I had a photography business, I was doing weddings. Weddings always pay a lot of money, which is really great. And photography in general pays really good money, but it wasn't really like my long-term purpose. I want to help more people, especially in terms of like mental health, because I feel like a lot of people are not that good with the mental health, and there's not really a lot of teaching. Everyone talks about, oh, you need to become more healthy, physically healthy, right? But a lot of people don't really teach the mind, because it's more important what goes into your mind than what goes into your body. Because when something good comes into your mind, you also make better decisions. So you choose the right food. For example, if you feel happy, if you feel grounded, if you have the warmth and love in your life, you actually consume less, and then you have better eating habits. And then sure, you still need to do the physical stuff. Then the third business, which was the one which paid me the most money so far, was the IT startup I had in Germany. So we were working for e-commerce. We had really big brands like Puma, S. Oliver, H&M, but it was entirely meaningless. It just made money and paid the bills. That is the only thing. And then now I'm kind of like more or less starting a personal brand. It's more like a micro mini personal brand, but I talk more about like entrepreneur and creator, and embodying these two brain hemispheres into one unification, because I feel like that's the biggest problem we have right now. It's kind of like everyone tries to separate men from women, right? Everyone's like, oh, men are evil, oh, women are whatever, and it's stupid. Like it's kind of like it's a balance, right? You need to balance both. You need to balance the man and the woman, the masculine and the feminine, so you have a balance of everything. It's the same if you work too much or if you spend too much time in leisure, you don't really create anything. It's always kind of like in the middle part, right? But that's this difficult part, to have this balance, because a lot of people fall into the extreme, because one goes in the one way, the other goes in the other way. And yeah, personal brand, in my opinion, is the best one. Oh, it's actually because no one is better at being you than you. So it's kind of like no one is ever going to outcompete. And to give you something, if you ever want to start a personal brand, I give you a really short guide. This is something, it's one page, and everything is much more easier if you ever want to like start a personal brand, start content creation, because it is a huge purposeful pursuit. And if you are able to make from this purposeful pursuit money, it will kind of like solve most of your bad habits, because most of the bad habits actually come from not having a purpose, like a singular direction. Like it's kind of like a video game. You want to have a quest, you're working towards and aiming towards, like a ladder, and you continuously want to master this craft. And in short, what is a personal brand? Is kind of like you're going to be a guide, not the hero of a story. The reader is the hero, and you helping the guy from a perspective of a guide, that the hero is defeating the villain. So it's the best example is the Hunger Games. The Hunger Games, there's Katniss Everdeen, who wants to win the Hunger Games to protect her sister, right? And then she meets the guy called, I think he calls Haymitch, and he already won the Hunger Games. So he's the guide helping Katniss Everdeen to win the Hunger Games. So we have the hero, we have the villain, and we have the guide. And the guide introduces a plan, which is maybe a product, to help the hero defeat the villain. And this is kind of like the personal brand in a nutshell. This is all you need to know. You just need to think, okay, I'm not the hero of the story. I already overcame, let's say, eating disorder or eating problems, right? Or overeating. That's what one problem I really struggled a lot for my life, which I still want to make a video about it, like how to like overcome like overeating problem, because that was one thing. It's an ADHD problem as well. So ADHD people tend to eat more based on research because of like the dopamine, right? Like you've realized too late that you've kind of like full in some way, right? So that's kind of like an irony. So yeah, and a lot of people tell you, oh, you need to make money, blah, blah. It's like, no, I don't think so. I don't think you need to make money first. You need to find something first that is so purposeful for you that you would do it entirely for free. And then money is the byproduct that helps you to achieve this goal, or money is like one of the outcomes after you become a specific level and you become better at it. Because when I had a startup, I was making 15,000 in one weekend. In one weekend, I worked 70 hours and we made 15,000 euros. And this was the moment I was like, hey, we maybe need to build a startup because of that, because we make so much money, right? And then I think 6 months later, we had a team of 10 people and making between 30 to 50,000 a month. But it was meaningless, right? It didn't give me any purpose. So money before purpose, and it still is going to provide you in the future the amount of money you want to have. Because once you're obsessed about certain thing, which is, for example, me, I'm hugely into the second brain thinking, mental organization and writing. This is one of the most crazy things because I kind of like gamify my mind. It's kind of like playing a video game inside of my mind. And this made it so obsessive, this work, that I said, okay, I want to continue this until probably the end of my life, because so far it's 2 years in, and there was not a single day I didn't wake up purposeful, like, oh, I want to continue on my work. And actually 8 months after this, no, I think it took 8 months with zero progress. And then after these 8 months, in just 6 months, I growed on Threads with ADHD content, sure. That's probably how you discovered me. Was into 22,000 followers. Now it's 28. It went a bit down, the growth, compared to like the peak season of Threads, because now it's video creation more and visuals, which kind of annoys me because I want to have the text content, but never mind. And then I grew from 200 subscribers. So it took me 8 months to get to 200 subscribers and another 6 months to grow from 200 to 3,400. And then it slowed down. Now I'm like kind of like more trying to, build this back end community of it instead of like posting too much of content. So yeah, and actually most of the growth happened by 60 minutes and the rest was fun. The rest was gamifying, the rest was mental organization, the rest was chaos to clarity. But the growth of Threads happened by 60 minutes a day, which was writing and scheduling the posts. Okay, so now we're talking about the weekend creator. So that's the main part, because when you have a job, you don't have the time between Monday to Friday to do a lot of things. Maybe you have 1 hour a day to write in the morning before maybe going to work, because I always feel like you should always spend more time for yourself before you spend time for others, which means first you make money for yourself before you make money for your boss. So if you're able, wake up an hour early, if you can, depends. I mean, I don't tell you to wake up at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. That's kind of ridiculous. But if you have the option, your job starts at 9 or 8 or something, wake up an hour earlier, and then you are able to write in the morning, which then later pays your bills, and then you can go to your job. And then on the weekend, you have 4 hours every single day, like Saturday and Sunday, and you invest every of these 2 days, 4 hours into work, because that's the perfect state of focus you can achieve with ADHD and with everyone. Everyone can only focus intensely deep work for 4 to maximum 5 hours. And kind of like you want to build a system so it kind of like sustains, as James Clear says, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your system. So if you have a specific system in place, you can have a bad day, but your work is still continuing and having this maintenance work. And if you want to have a specific routine for ADHD, which helped me the most, like a routine for me was the single greatest structure I needed for my ADHD life, because it creates the best outcome for your work, because you're able to save cognitive resources and invest it into your work. So number one, the most important thing is getting sunlight in the morning. I was living in Australia a couple months ago, and I was having an apartment which was on the side of sunset. And during the side of sunset, I didn't get any morning sunlight. And I really felt more groggy and more tired in the morning. And now I'm here in Bali and have more sunlight, like there, where I get it in the morning. And I'm much more productive and much more awake in the morning because I get sunlight in the morning. If you can, leave the curtains open, wake up naturally by the sun. Try to not set an alarm on the weekend if you can. Then no phone, no social media, no news, no conversations, nothing in the morning. Keep it private for yourself. It's kind of like more like a relaxed, slow meditation or some quality time for yourself. You can get some water and salt. You can also get some electrolytes. Don't consume any sugar or sweeteners. Sweeteners also trigger your dopamine receptors and make you not able to focus well. It's kind of like it triggers, it doesn't really trigger insulin, but it sensitizes it, but it triggers your dopamine receptors, which you don't want with ADHD because you want to have the effort before the reward. That's the most important thing. Effort before the reward, and that's dopamine. Or the importance about dopamine. And yeah, salt, you can also, if you want to have it a bit cheaper, you can have salt and lime. You can make your own electrolytes if you want to, but try to not really ingest calories for at least the first 1 or 2 hours in the morning. Ideally, I fast quite long, but there's differences for men and women, which I will talk about in a minute. Then, what I do is, there's a lot of different routines in the morning, right? What I found the best for me, for writing and for ADHD, is to read a book in the morning. So a lot of people in flow psychology, they tell you to wake up and start working, which works. But I find it even better to read a book, because reading a book is actually work. Because it is a state of mind, you need to focus. And Andrew Huberman also talks, if you're like staring at a wall for like 2 minutes, you're able to work better afterwards, because it is so boring that everything afterwards becomes fun. And it's the same with reading a book. Reading a book in the morning is so slow, but it's also a transition into work. So when you wake up in the morning, maybe you can take a cold shower, you can brush your teeth if you want to, but I read a book while viewing sunlight for the first 30 to 60 minutes. And because the book is kind of like this focus thing and is kind of like work, you get into a flow state more easily. And then you can easily get a cup of coffee and then transition into writing. And writing is one of the best things you can do for your ADHD brain, because it creates structure, and that's what we lack. We lack structure. And when I started writing 2 years ago, it literally changed my life and my brain. And then I built a second brain thing, organized everything, and so I can find and search everything what I thought about. Every piece of content, every thought I had 6 months ago is written down in the second brain. And yeah, coffee and focus is really, really important. So you can see coffee is a drug, in short. Coffee is a drug, but it's a natural drug. And I always say, consume things that are natural and not made by mankind. Because everything that is created by humans is not good. Everything that is created by nature is good, because nature balances itself. Nature can balance perfectly. We humans can't really balance everything perfectly. That's why everything we create is somehow faulty or destroyed. So, and coffee is kind of like a natural, softer drug that helps you to focus better. So men, for example, can drink better coffee on an empty stomach, like here. Having my cold brew in the morning, that's the only thing I like at Starbucks, is a cold brew. Everything else tastes horrible. And then, yeah, it's like a man can work better in the morning on an empty stomach. And for example, cold brew protects your gut because it has less acidity compared to like warm coffee. So it's not too bad for the gut. Because if you have too much acidity and having 2 or 3 coffees, normal ones, without like ice, it kind of like, yeah, it can hurt a bit after a while if you drink too much on an empty stomach. But for women, it's better to pair coffee with carbohydrates, because carbohydrates reduce cortisol in the body and coffee increases cortisol in the body. So for men have a higher tolerance in terms of cortisol compared to women. So if men drink coffee, it increases cortisol, but it's not that bad. If a woman drinks coffee on an empty stomach, it raises cortisol and she feels stressed, and it actually makes her less productive and less happy. So a woman needs to kind of like fight against it, and they can do it with carbohydrates. They can pair milk. Don't do oat milk. Oat milk have a really strong blood sugar spike, which is really unhealthy. So you can pair it with normal milk. You can pair it with some good food, which is not raising your blood sugar levels. And you can also pair it with L-theanine, which is a compound or an ingredient inside green tea or the green tea leaves, which is inside matcha. That's why a lot of women like matcha, because it smoothens the coffee. It doesn't raise too much cortisol, but also gives them focus. And that's why that's why there's all this huge matcha trend. And then number 4, the last one, is log in and write, as I said before. Writing was the single greatest skill I've ever developed to help with my mind, to help with my articulation, to help with my ADHD, and to actually help with my business. It gave me a lot of clarity, it gave me a lot of purpose, and it also gamified my mind. Because every day when I write an essay, it's kind of like an experience, something new, and my mind comes up with new ideas and new worlds I create. So it's the same with the Marvel universe from Stan Lee, or if you watch One Piece or Harry Potter or something by J.K. Rowling, they created a world inside of their mind. And this is the best developed by writing, because writing is structured thinking. So if you have ADHD, you can think, everyone can think, right? But writing is kind of like the thing that structures your thinking. And the more you write, let's say every day 1 or 2 hours, what I do, the more you structure your brain, and the more you become more neurotypical, which means you align more in the middle, which I said before, the missing puzzle piece. It's the alignment of masculine and feminine, from yin and yang, from neurotypical and ADHD. And this is the goal. We always want to have a balance, an inner balance inside of us. And overall, you don't really need a lot of followers. You just need an email list. That's what I'm focused on the last year or something. Instead of posting too much content, I try to connect more with people, have these live calls, which I really enjoy. I find them super funny. I try to do more the back end, try to do less posting in the past, and try to do more the private or the more interactions with people. And it really helps more than the stuff you post online, because it's just superficial. I don't really like Instagram. I find Instagram horrible. It's just so bad for your brain, and you just compare yourself. There's so many people just showing their amazing lifestyle, but they have nothing in their brain. It's just physical, right? What I would recommend, if you want to have start a simple content creation business, and maybe execute this one for 6 to 12 months before dropping out of your work, is you write your essay or your week of content every single week. It can be on a weekend, can be every single day, 1 hour in the morning. And then you paste an essay into different prompts, which I can give you later. I will send them up. And these prompts create a short post out of your newsletter. So you don't need to write all of them by yourself, because it's quite exhausting. And competing with big people is quite difficult without AI, because the most important thing you want to focus on is your essay and developing your ideas and your mind. This is the most important thing. In the future, AI will automate everything, and the only thing what will remain are emotions and connections, because AI is like a programmer, So you want to create this emotions, which is connection, which is articulation, which is writing, which is connecting with people. Everything what consists of the mind and consciousness. And then 2 is optimizing the hook, using a specific proven systems or formulas, which I also have, which I can send up later. And then shape it into it can be 8 to 12 posts, a long post, that's a long post. So short, I post between 14 to 21 short posts a week on Threads, and I post every day a long form post. In most cases, not every day, but in most cases I do. And they're between 8 to 12 posts. So it's kind of like a newsletter, just compressed into 8 to 12 posts. And then at the end, you put number 4, is you put a call to action at the end, so people join your newsletter, and that's the best thing that can happen. So because it's more personal, right? If I'm writing a newsletter or an email and having live calls, it's much more personal than you see stuff on social media. Number 5 is batch up these things to short, long threads, as I explained before. And then number 6 is schedule them one day, Monday through Sunday. So let's say you do it on Sunday before your job on a Monday. You schedule your entire piece of content for the entire week. You go to your job, and kind of in the back end, you get all these emails, and then you can create your own little Marvel universe. And trust me, it's a really purposeful pursuit, because it's a lot of fun. You create your own little world and philosophy inside of your mind with writing and everything. And the hook also decides if anyone sees the rest. This is really important. I keep it short. I will later send you my threads database. It's not perfectly written. but you can filter based on which had the most likes, which had the most comments, for example. Did I include comments? I don't know, maybe. And then which had the most views and most likes. That's the two most important. So you can actually copy them if you want to. You can reuse these threads because they mostly perform still well. Sure, the algorithm changes a bit, but they still perform well. And yeah, kind of like, this is kind of like, in a nutshell, you grow your email list on Threads, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you want to start. You have one specific service you want to offer, like a specific pain point. Like for me, it's like chaos to clarity, for example, ADHD turned into creation or meaningful work. Then you can price it differently. Sure, I do more cohorts because that's more what I enjoy. I don't really like one-on-one conversations, one-on-one coaching. It's not my thing. And then you can, but if you do in the beginning, it's a bit more, a faster way to get into money is like you charge a client 1,000 or 2,000. Let's say whatever you want to do, branding, you maybe have experience in human resources, maybe in programming, maybe in accounting. That's a pretty good niche. And then you start with selling to B2B, like businesses. That's what I did with my startup, which made 300,000 in 1 year, in the first year. And then later you switch to B2C because it's more purposeful, helping a bit more people directly. And then yeah, you try to make it recurring. So every month you kind of like get your paycheck. Yeah, just a short introduction again. 4 hours Saturday and Sunday, write for 1 or 2 hours. 3 is paid into long posts, short post as well. Optimize the hook, add a call to action, schedule from Monday to Sunday. And this is all you need. And yeah, I think this is the last slide. If you do this every weekend for 4 hours, maybe you could make it even in 2 hours if you want to. But I enjoy 4 hours of work with coffee because it pushed me into a flow state for 4 hours. And then you can go to work on a Monday with a calm mind and you know, okay, the content is going to make itself and I only need to check on the weekend again. So you kind of have full focus on your job. Yeah, that's it for today. A bit longer than I expected. Yeah, I think I always talk too much. So yeah, any questions?